Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Starchild podcast. Yesterday, I went and saw Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix, directed by Todd Phillips. And today we're going to do a review of that film. And that is what I call cinema. Normally, I don't care for comic book movies because they kind of dominate the box office nowadays. And that's where a majority of studios' funding goes. But when done right, it turns out very well. And when you get a great director like Todd Phillips and a great actor like Joaquin Phoenix to pull off a role like this, you get a great film. To sink his teeth into this role, Joaquin Phoenix lost 50 pounds. And as well as losing 50 pounds, he smokes about 1,000 cigarettes during this movie, which I thought was hilarious. Essentially, every scene that he's in, he's smoking a cigarette, and I think that increases when he gets off of his medication. That's the only spoiler I'll say. I have my notes here. The cinematographer of Joker is Lawrence Sher, who just did the new Godzilla film. He did the cinematography for that film. The runtime for Joker is 2 hours, 2 minutes, and it has a great pace. It has a linear plot line, that takes place over the course of about 2 to 3 weeks, I want to say. I don't have many critiques of this film, actually. I absolutely loved it. Again, it had a great pace. It was cut very well, edited very well. Every shot in it could be taken. A still could be taken of every shot in this movie, and could be made into a painting. This movie just has basically everything that I look for. It is a drama. I think the biggest thing that sets this Joker apart from Heath Ledger's Joker is the lack of jokes. He's really a tortured soul who has good intentions, but suffers from severe mental illness and realizes that he has mental illness. And that's another thing that I think separates Joaquin Phoenix's Joker from Heath Ledger's Joker, is that Heath Ledger's Joker either ignored his mental illness or it was so severe that he just didn't really even think about it, I suppose. But Joaquin Phoenix is well aware of his mental illness and does what he can to calm his negative thoughts by going to a therapist and taking medication. And that's a big part of this movie, is following the self-destruction patterns of a person with mental illness in a society where nothing is really done to improve the conditions of mentally ill people, and that bad environment kind of only stokes the fires of Gotham City, where the citizens of Gotham are becoming increasingly anxious with this time period, which kind of reflects the time period that we're currently going through. The soundtrack was scored before any minute of film was shot, which I thought was very interesting. And I immediately picked up on the soundtrack as having a personality of its own. And I thought it sounded very similar to the soundtrack Leon the Professional, the 90s hitman movie with Jean Reno and Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman's first movie. It has kind of a creepy string-based score. And I thought it was interesting that it was scored before before the cameras were even rolling. But Hildur Guðnadóttir, Hildur Guðnadóttir, who's an Icelandic composer, did the score. Sorry about that. And she did a fantastic job. Other than the original score, there are some hand-picked tracks for this film, such as the transformation scene into Joker, which if you've seen the film, I'm sure that's a majority favorite scene. Is that film, or that scene when he transforms into Joker, which is a very slow burn, actually. The transformation isn't immediate. Like I said, he's a tortured soul with good intentions, but his environment does nothing to guide him in the right direction. The storyline is linear. The role of Joker definitely holds up to Heath Ledger's Joker. I think, in my opinion, I'm going to say that they're perfectly equal in their performances. Basically because each of the Jokers, their time period, take place at different times. So Heath Ledger's Joker is kind of fully matured, and is wreaking havoc on Gotham, whereas Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is more of an origin story. And if you're a film buff or a cinephile like I am, you may have noticed that there are direct alludes to Taxi Driver, Martin Scorsese film, and that's a big reason why Robert De Niro was sought after for the role of Murray Franklin, who is a talk show host in Gotham City. Joker's name is Arthur Fleck, and I sympathize for anyone whose name is Arthur Fleck out there now, because they are immediately affiliated with mass murder, psychopath. But Arthur Fleck is the son of Penny Fleck, his mother, who he lives with, and he takes care of her, and he is a clown and amateur stand-up comedian. And I thought it was an interesting direction to have his laugh actually be a disorder, which I thought was a brilliant writing decision. And you could tell that his laugh made him hurt every time he did it. Every time it triggered his laugh, it immediately made him have panic attacks, which worsened his laughter, which kind of tortures him throughout the film. Let's see here. My only critique of the film would be, let's see. I would say, try not to give too much away. I want to say the last 20-30 seconds, last minute of the film. Like I watched Chris Stuckman's, who's another film reviewer. I saw his take on it, and we share a similar opinion that it should have been more of a hard cut at the end, with his line. You know, you wouldn't understand, you wouldn't get it. I would rather it cut there rather than it going on for another 30 seconds to a minute. But other than that, I would say 9 out of 10. I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10. Where Chris Stuckman and I disagree, though, is he thought that it was too obvious that they were alluding to Travis Bickle's character and his character study in Taxi Driver, Martin Scorsese's film. But I actually loved that part about Joker most. Sorry, my webcam's shaking a bunch. I love that part the most, that they pay homage to classic films such as Taxi Driver. I think more films should take advice from films such as Taxi Driver, because so many movies nowadays, the quality of them just, it isn't as good as some of the older movies. With CGI, they were just so polished that it kind of loses the believability of the characters and storyline for a lot of modern films for me nowadays. But Joker, 9 out of 10. I recommend anyone seeing it. And yeah, I don't think I have anything else.
You just ask the same questions every week. How's your job? Are you having any negative thoughts? All I have.
Oh yeah. Robert De Niro's character, Murray Franklin, who plays kind of a late night talk show host, he has a similar fate of his character in Jackie Brown, and that's all I'll say about that. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Starchild. I will have another podcast up next week, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you later.